This episode of Dad is Not a Noun. I want to thank today's sponsor, the Real Dads Network, 11th annual Real Dads Network Daddy Daughter Dance.
So Corey, why are you excited about this daddy daughter dance?
Because we get to spend time with each other and dance.
Are you gonna dance?
Yes.
Yeah, no you're not. I love it.
So what is this daddy daughter dance?
Good question. So the daddy daughter dance is on February 18th in Manhattan. Weren't you born in New York? Going back home, huh? Absolutely. Gentlemen, if you're a father, if you're an uncle, if you're a grandfather, if you're just a guy in the community that ladies look up to as a positive role model, come out to this event. Put it on your calendar. This is the 11th annual Daddy Daughter Dance hosted by the Real Dads Network. And we're excited to have more gentlemen come together to fellowship, but also have a special night for our little queens and princesses. Have a great time, come out, enjoy, and join us on February 18th. Tickets are still available right now.
So guys, I don't care if you're free or not, but just put time on your calendar to spend special time with your daughter.
She's putting the pressure on you, fellas. Have a good day.
Find a better fit for them, along with my crown. And since the baton was passed, hopping down, cause failing's not an option, and dad is not a noun, not at all.
Welcome to another episode of Dad is Not a Noun, changing the narrative for men of color and fatherhood, as well as changing the narrative on the things I care about. And today, what I care about is my special guest. You've seen this brother before. He was on a podcast with me and Juju back in the days. I wish we could do the podcast again. I wish love to Juju out there. I got the one and only Marv Radio. Marv Radio, how you doing, brother? First question I want to ask you, my brother, is how's your heart? And the reason why I ask that, because I'm all about mental health. So how's your heart, brother?
My heart is good. My heart is elevated, present, clear. I'm feeling I'm feeling now we're moving out of, at least here in the UK right now, we're moving out of the winter into the spring energy. There's a lot of beautiful things that are just underneath the surface that are starting to sprout up. So that's making my heart good. Spending some good time with some good people, that's making my heart feel good. And of course, reconnecting with you, my brother, we're also a perfect reason for, I've been finding the positive in as many things as possible. So we good.
And I can see it in the glow in your face and your smile, brother. For the people in the States that don't know who Marv Radio, let people know who is Marv Radio.
Yeah, so I am a multidisciplinary artist as well as a coach, sound therapist. I guide people through transformational journeys. I'm a big advocate of the power of psychedelics in mental health and emotional self-help, and in spiritual health. So I am, let's say, I'm a channel for uplifting energy through hip hop, through creativity, and also through the spiritual arts.
And you know, you're a very humble guy, and you're like the 3-time UK boxing beatbox champion.
Yeah, 3 times UKT beatbox champion. It feels like another lifetime. This was before a lot of other things, but yeah, I happen to be a beatboxer as well. MC, freestyle don. You know, I love to keep the flow state, and beatboxing has taught me a lot about that in life, how to use sound and how to be in flow state, and so has rap. So yeah, I don't always big that up so much, but yeah, I guess I am a 3-time UK beatbox champion.
Well, I gotta show you love because that's an awesome accomplishment. I don't think no one in history, I think UK has been a 3-time UK big box champion. Oh, I could be wrong.
Well, there've been a couple. So we're 3 times team champs, and then there's Reeps One, who has been 3 times UK champion, and as well, was D'Lo 3 times? I think D'Lo was 3 times UK champion as well. But yeah, it's happened. But you know, for me, the beatbox champion is an accolade that I wear like, oh, look at me, because battle is part of hip hop. Beatbox battling is taking on its own art form right now, and for me, I just love to be an expressor of sounds and frequencies that uplift people. So, you know, the competitive angle, I can say I'm a champion. I can say I'm one of the best beatboxers on the planet. But to be honest, it's not important about who's best, who's better, who wins. It's more important about the actual vibration we carry, and that's more what I like to champion, rather than champion that I'm a champion. You know.
No. I feel you on that, bro. But I just wanted to give you your flowers while you're alive, because you know
Thank you,
we're
bro.
living right now. This is like the 50-year anniversary of hip hop, and so I just want to let people know, like, sometimes you may not hear about artists that play an integral part in hip hop, and I just want people to know that, you know, even though you're in the UK, hip hop is very global. Like, when you talk about music, hip hop is everywhere. Whether if you're in Africa, where you're in Japan, China, India, the UK, hip hop has influenced the world. And so I want to put more people in the limelight that contribute to hip hop, like yourself.
Yeah, man. I mean, hip hop is worldwide. Hip hop is the reason I'm alive. It's the reason why I am in good health and happy. It's what gave me meaning, purpose, reason in times where things were very difficult. Hip hop has always been there. So I shout out hip hop for bringing the community together, for being able to take me to different countries, different continents, and showing me, you know, the real hip hop, which is that intelligent movement, that uplifting of people and taking us to a higher level as a people.
And that's important too. And I remember the story that you told me and Juju, if you feel comfortable talking about, when you were talking about how Tupac saved your life. You want to talk about
That's
that?
right. Yeah, of course, of course. So when I was about 15 years old, I was in quite a dark place. Been kicked out of school. I just felt very isolated. Was smoking hella weed, and yeah, I'd been dealing with some traumas that actually I only really started to face in my 20s. And you know, at that point, I decided I didn't want to be here anymore. I decided to try and take my life, and just at the point where I was about to go, and you know, I won't give details. Trigger warning. I'm not going to say specifically how I was doing it, but let's say there was a moment where Tupac was playing in the music in the background. You know, music was the soundtrack to everything. Hip hop was the soundtrack to everything, and it was just playing, and it was Fog's Mansion. And he said the line, "I once contemplated suicide and would have tried, but when I held that knife, I could see was my mother's eyes." And that was when I thought about my mom. I struggled out of the situation I was in after, you know, I was starting to see black and colors coming in, and you know, really feeling like I was leaving. And at that moment, I feel like Tupac, as the angel of hip hop that he is, reached out and said to me, you know, think about your mom. Do you want her to come find you like this, or do you want to live more life? And you know, I'm grateful every day that hip hop did save me, and that, you know, if I speak to that young man, if I speak to that young man who was lost, and say, you know, you look at the things you've experienced, look at the places you've gone, look at the life you've had, you know, and that's the gratitude that I have, is that I got a second chance, you know. I genuinely think, had I not heard those words, it could have been a different way, and it was very close. So yeah, I always give thanks to Tupac, to hip hop, and for the fact that this stuff is transcendental. You know, it's deeper than just words and rhythms and beats and music and dance and painting, and DJing is way deeper. The culture is something that has saved millions of lives by now. So yeah, we give thanks to hip hop every time.
And I appreciate you sharing that, because you know that has been like the soundtrack of your life, because you're going through a lot of stuff, like trauma at home, as well as like going to school, dealing with racism and things like that. So how has hip hop kind of helped you through that transition through life?
I mean, hip hop is in so many ways allowed me to find new ways of being, new ways of dealing with things. I mean, at first it was being someone who wasn't very socially, you know, I wasn't very social as a being. So having the ability to go on stage and perform, that was something that allowed me to make social connections, break out of my shell, have confidence, meet other people that were interested in the same thing as me, and then it gave me a methodology. It gave me therapy. Like I always champion people who go to therapists, but I personally have never been to a therapist myself. I've had therapies, different alternative therapies, and I've worked a lot with, as I say, psychedelics but hip hop, the ability to write down my experience, the ability to freestyle has allowed me to be in flow state. The connections, the work that it gave me in times where, you know, I've always had enough. I've always had exactly as much as I needed in life, and I have hip hop to thank for that, for being able to connect to, you know, particularly the hip hop theater scene, the dance scene, working with people like Breaking Convention, and being able to see that this art form is this culture, it's almost like hip hop's a living entity to me. It's always transforming, it's always growing, it's always becoming new, and a lot of those principles of, I continually allow myself to transform, to change, to become new, and to not stay as I was. And the idea, like, you know, I always say that hip hop is like shamanism, you know, it's like magic. It's like, you know, for example, you have the alchemists, the DJs, the producers, the people who take sounds and take experiences from other places and put them together to create something brand new, to take the bricks and what may have crumbled down and turn it into gold. We have the prophets, the masters of ceremony, the people who get people to move, to share their stories, to share their point of view. And, you know, people will underestimate how magic it is to be like, put your hands in the air. People do it. And I didn't see any. Now everyone will do it in a festival. Any act will do it, but that's purely hip hop. Maybe it was in jazz and reggae before, to like put your hands up, but really like hip hop champion, that the master of ceremony telling people what to do to elevate the energy, and that's slept on. Like, put your hands up while it's coming through. And then you have the graffiti artists, the writers, as some prefer to be called, who transform boring, dull environments into galleries. They turn the normal world into galleries. They turn grey horizons into color. And of course, we have the yogis and the Tai Chi energy masters, the b-boys, the b-girls, the poppers, the lockers, moving on to crump, which is such a spiritual thing and an evolution of hip hop in this day and age. So it's not to be slept on how much this culture has affected all of us. But for me, it's really helped me to understand what alchemy is, to witness how hip hop transforms people who seem to have nothing, or to be really, really deprived of everything that they were supposed to have, whether it's being deprived of our father, God, I have mine, to be deprived of our role models, to be deprived of healthy environments, clean air, to be poisoned by the crack epidemic, to be force-fed gangster rap for like 30 years now. And like all these things that have like gone into no disrespect to those who are on the street and talking that talk, but that wasn't our decision. That was a executive decision from up high to paint hip hop as the violence, as the drugs, as the misogyny, as opposed to hip hop is storytelling, it's poetry, it's flow. So and in seeing that, my life has been transformed in connecting with people from South America to Japan to Thailand to wherever I go. There's a hip hop community. There's like actual elemental hip hop, and we do it because we love it. Because a lot of hip hop artists do not make the money that a lot of other artists do, because we stay true. We stay true to not necessarily the old school or the new school, but the true school. We stay true, and as much as they've tried to kill the truth, we're still here. We're still paving the way. So I owe everything I have to hip hop. And the evolution was after hip hop, focusing on beatboxing, it became sound, frequency, vibration, and that's the key to the universe.
No, and I totally agree with you 100%, bro. But I look at hip hop as the medicine woman, because it has so much healing elements, like you were alluding to before. But for your personal journey, how did hip hop heal you, and it gave you that sense of giving back, because you give back so much to a lot of people in what you do?
Yeah, so I would say that not only did hip hop give me an identity, a way to use my linguistic expertise to cast spells of positivity, it gave me rhythm. It gave me a rhythm, and rhythm, I've been in a lot of different healing, spiritual circles, plant medicine circles, yoga circles, and a lot of the time around the fire with hippies, and a lot of the time they're missing that edge. They're missing that like bounce, that fire, that, and the elements of fire, earth, water, air, and ether like come in hip hop. So sometimes when we think of healing, we see people wearing all white, singing with guitars, and all, more power to them. But healing is also someone getting down and spinning, and you see from the whirling dervishes in Turkey, for example, in the Sufi tradition, whirling. But then we being hip hop, that's not enough for us. We got to spin on our heads, we got to spin on our hands, we got to spin on our elbows. So for me, yeah, it's given me an identity. It's given like actually vibration in itself, and being able to tune into vibration and make rhythm and beatbox and make sounds that people didn't think were possible. It opened my possibilities to what sound is, and took me down the path of what I do now, which is, as well as I have a lot of new music about to come out, which is exciting. But as well, I've been working on the coaching. I'm just finishing off an online course to help people be connected to their vision, to find their voice, and to go through 12 weeks of transformation. I wouldn't be there. Unless this beautiful art form had held me, nurtured me, and raised me from a hungry little baby to, now as a 35-year-old man. Some people would see me as an elder in the community of hip hop. I still see myself as a young cat, or a young dog, But like these, I see that I'm in a position of influence now. I see that, like, talking to some of the younger people I know, whether that's dancers, whether that's rappers, singers, whatever it is, and like letting them know, this is deeper than what the industry is going to tell you need to do. Like the fact that I'm still standing here after multiple near-death experiences, after all kinds of things that could have ended me, and I'm very happy. I'm very centered and grounded in my life. That's testament to what hip hop has done for me, and what it is doing through me. So yeah, I give thanks.
And then just talk about, I love how you talk about sound. And I know from the last conversation we had before on high creativity, we talk about how sound is like Mother Nature's candy. But just talk about the intersection to the sound of nature and hip hop.
I mean, there's many ways that I can go with this. From the sampling element, we've had people sample birds. We have the drum skins, the original Naya Bingi, the Rasta energy that has always been with hip hop as well. We have the fact that we because as I've grown up, I've not been such a fan of cities, even though I'm moving back to London very soon. For some reason, the sounds and the energies there don't bring the highest vibration. But somehow hip hop turns that nature, which is still part of nature. We want to say it's unnatural, but it is part of nature, that humans have changed the landscape. It might not be our highest nature, but it's part of it. The fact that we reflect our surroundings. And then for me personally, being able to go to the Amazon rainforest, to go to atop mountains in many different countries, to go to sacred temples in Egypt, to go to all or Kemet, as I prefer to call it. But for the listeners who don't know what Kemet is, I'll say Egypt. I'm sure a lot of your listeners are learned enough to know what Kemet is, but just in case, to go into these spaces, and for me to beatbox in these spaces and hear, like, it might be a bird in the jungle going, and I'm doing it back, and I feel like that's what hip hop really represents. It's a reflection of the environment. It's a connection. And man, to be in nature and writing lyrics, or like
Mm.
create music, hip hop music. And I guess extending that to hip hop theater, which I've also taken inspiration from nature, and I know a lot of other artists have also, worked through their creative process by immersing in nature. It's powerful. It's powerful to go to West Africa and see the young hip hop minds, and they're in the bush, and like see going with some of these artists to where they kept the slaves, and creating different frequencies and vibrations from there. Nature, I would like to hear more of the inner city hip hop artists get more influence, and be able to spread their wings and go a bit further afield than their hood, than their environment, than their block. Because even though a lot of these people, either for fear or for lack of funding or for lack of imagination, have stayed in the same environment and not been able to see the world, they still conjure up images that create worlds, and that can only be exponentially increased as we connect to. I mean, one of my tracks recently that I wrote, it's a track called Let Go, and I'm looking forward to releasing this one. But I wrote this while I was in Ibiza, in the woods, in the mountains, just like listening to this beat that I'd been sent, and just, what is this about? And the trees are talking to me.
Wow.
Sitting in the roots of a tree, the trees communicate, the mushrooms communicate to me. So in terms of the way that hip hop always has its ears out, and that it reflects back, it reminds me of birds, it reminds me of nature, and how powerful it is to be in a mountain range and hear your voice echo and reverberate around a mountain range, or like to be in a cave and beatbox. Like, most people never experience that, but I'm fortunate enough to be able to have had these experiences. So, and when we talk about nature, we also talk about our inner nature, our human nature, our ability to transform the environment. So I feel like hip hop is a beautiful balance of African origin, of connection to ancestors, connection to spirit, but also remixed with the city edge, with that little, just that pinch of struggle that makes everything a little bit more tangible, a bit more real, a little bit more relatable. So yeah, I feel hip hop is nature. Hip hop is a force of nature. It's intrinsic to us, just like it's intrinsic to a bird to sing, because it's not because it needs money or accolades or anything like that, but because it's part of its nature to be singing and to be resonating and to share that with the world around it. So yeah, I could go on about that, but for now I'll leave it there.
No, man. Seriously, you could go on for days, man. You could probably have a lecture at one of the prestige universities in Oxford and have a dissertation on hip hop and nature. I'm being honest.
I'd love to. I did. Fortunately enough, hip hop did take me to Cambridge University to share beatboxing and rap with some international students, and I was able to lecture and perform in Cambridge University, which is one of many things that I'm proud of, but at the same time, I'm proud of, but then I'm not like, I don't have some sort of idolization for these institutions. I didn't go to university for many reasons. I didn't go. I went to what we in the UK call college. I don't know what the equivalent is, but it's before university, which is what you call college. And yeah, like, I feel hip hop has been feeding back to the educational system. That's something I could go on for a long time about as well. And in terms of how hip hop is an educator, and it is an educator that continually learns and learns from the young lions and learns from the elders. And unfortunately, the education system that most of us are born into is one that doesn't learn. It actually separates and creates boundaries for people to a one-size-fits-all approach, so that people in their nature do not really get the chance to be their genius self. And it's my humble opinion that every human being is a genius until taught how not to be. Yeah.
No, I totally agree with you, because that's the one thing about hip hop. What I love about hip hop, it breaks the shackles of limitation. You know what I mean? It just gives you bountiful opportunity to see the world and see your existence. And then when you get into this confined structured world, they put limitations on you. They're like, oh, because you're this, you can't do this. Because you're a man of color, you can't do this. Because you're a woman, you can't do this. You can't do this. And what hip hop does, it just fucks people's minds up. It's like the possibility is yours. It just depends on how you take advantage of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the key words you said is they tell us we can't. And like in learning through hip hop the power of words, these words are super powerful. I hear people that I work with and that I help to transform the way they use their voice. I can't. A lot. Because someone else told them they can't. Because when have you heard a kid that is like, and I don't mean a kid that hasn't gone to school, I mean like a young kid or a kid that's been homeschooled or schooled in the community, when do you hear them say I can't? They try. And if they do say I can't, it's because they've tried 10, 20 times and they're like, I can't, out of frustration, and they've heard someone else say it. But they say you can't do this because you're black or because you're a woman, because you're, even if it's, because you don't have the money, and all these separations that are created from upon high, they say, but from down low, I would say, all these separations that are created for us so that we identify as lesser, rather than realizing that we're all part of the whole and we all feed back and we all can achieve whatever we put our minds and our hearts to. And this is what I firmly hold to be the truth for us, is that first of all, we must be able to visualize and see where we can take it, because when we can visualize something concrete, we realize it's not there we need to go to. It's already in here. It already exists, and we can allow it to unfold and be. And that's why every day I'm holding a vision of a utopian paradise where people get to express themselves, where they get to learn through playing, where everybody has more than enough, because this is the way that the world is built. Although society in itself is not built that way, the world is built to have abundance everywhere we look. So yeah, may have been a bit of a tangent from what you were saying there, but
no. I think no, bro. I think it's perfect, because I think because we live in an ideology where everything is based on consumerism. And what I love what you do with your music and how you approach things is that everything you need is on earth. Nature is there. You don't need like a Benz. You don't need the flyest clothes. Everything you need is in its simplicity. But because of the world that we live in, we make things so complex when it's not complex. If we go back to the comic elements of nature, it's fucking simple. That's how I look at it.
Pretty much. Pretty much. And this is why I developed this concept of soul abundance, which is the course that I'm just finishing now, that will be available maybe by the time this is up. My plan is to work through the next couple of days and get it ready. And soul abundance is the concept, not, oh, look how much money I've got, I'm abundant. I'm about that soul abundance. Like if you were dropped in the middle of a place where you didn't know the language, butt naked, could you make something magical happen? That's the level that I feel humans can develop themselves to. It's not, oh, I've got all these resources so I can release a music video and I can put this out. It's like, what can you do from nothing? This last year, I had to start again from nothing. I had a very extravagant year. I traveled to Egypt, I traveled to Turkey, I traveled to my first Burning Man experience. And when I say I burnt it all away, I burnt it all away. I had to start from scratch. And this is where now there's so much beauty around me, because I had an empty bag. When you have an empty bag, you can catch the blessings. But when you're carrying around this, oh yeah, I got my Louis Vuitton, and inside this bag is all full of cash, and I've got jewels there, and there's big nugs of weed. you attach yourself to all of these items that ultimately feed from your life force. Because even more than feeling that everything we need is in this world, everything that anyone needs is inside of them, first of all. Like, we all have within ourselves everything we ever needed. But we also have this thing that can tell us that we don't have what we need, that we need something externally that isn't there. And while I feel it's powerful to have goals and drive and ambition and things that we want to create and experience in life, to feel that we're not complete until we get $1 million, until we get the trophy wife or the trophy husband, until we have the kids, until we have the home. It's like, how many times have you stopped to speak to someone who lives on the streets, who's wiser than the person who lives in a mansion? You know, it's the game ain't what it seems. And that's why I've been in rooms with billionaires, multimillionaires, and I've felt like the richest person in the room a lot of times because of the nature of who I am and what I have to give for the world. And that in itself is what I call soul abundance, the methodology of realizing that you have a universe inside of you. You have untold levels of resource inside of you, but they want you to look outside, because when you look outside, you compare yourself, you fall for the division tactics, you end up working for a boss that sees you as nothing more than a slave, and you make them super rich while you just about to scrape by. And if people are working 9 to 5 for just enough to scrape by, why wouldn't you do what you love for just enough to scrape by? Doesn't make sense.
No,
Or even more than just enough to scrape by, mate.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely on point on that. And so, to wrap this amazing conversation I'm having with you, bro, talk about the power of gratitude.
See, the reason I just took that breath is because gratitude, I can talk about it, but expressing it and connecting to it is deeper. I can be grateful because I woke up today, because I have a meal in my stomach, because I had the luxury of having a cold shower in the morning, doing my yoga, meditating, because I had a breakfast with some amazing people that I'm building a lot of wonderful things with, because I came back to Bournemouth, where I'm temporarily staying. I had a hot bath, I gave some me time, I had a really nice meal, and I'm having this conversation with you right now. You can always find the reason for gratitude, but when you realize the gratitude is one of the source codes of the universe, you don't need a reason. You can be grateful because I'm grateful because I fell off a mountain 30 feet and fractured my spine, and the lessons I learned, fell 4 stories from a building and shattered and even I look down, and I've always got the scars from the surgery to remind me of that experience. But you don't need to just be grateful for the things that are big and grand and what we deem positive, but also to be grateful for the ability to experience. My humble opinion is that we came from oneness, aka the black womb of consciousness, the original black mother, from a dream of separation of oneness, simply so we can experience. And that love is so strong and so powerful that we choose to come from absolute peace and oneness and unity to separate and have a mirror to experience, because oneness does not experience anything. So we ultimately are grateful for the hard times and the good times, because all of that is giving us the ability to feel, man. That's like, and as a man, and especially as a man of color, how much I've been conditioned to not feel.
Yeah.
I think about people who tell themselves, nah, man, I'm not about the feeling. It's all up here, or it's all in my body. And it's like, I've got to be strong. I've got to be a warrior. It's like, yo, if you've never felt true sadness, how can you feel joy? If you've never felt pain, how can you feel love and pleasure? So gratitude in itself is the lifeblood of the universe. Even though they don't have the same brains as us necessarily, we don't know, but they don't have the same brains. They make a bee is definitely grateful to the flower, and the flower is definitely grateful to the bee. But as far as we know, the bee's just getting some food, and the flower's getting some interspecies love that allows it to grow more and spread out. But for all we know, the bee seems pretty happy to, and for all we know, as it's flying into the flower, it's like, man, my job is the best. I get to drink nectar. I get to look at these beautiful colors. And I'm people that have hurt me. I'm grateful for the people that I've hurt and what I've learned in that process. I'm really grateful to my parents for raising me as well as they did and all they had, because I'm who I am because of that. So gratitude, in summation, gratitude is everything. It is, once you're grateful for what you have, like every time I've had low mental health, I've been focusing on what I don't have. I've been focusing on what I want and not feeling like I can get there, or feeling stuck, or feeling scared of not being significant enough. But when I start my day with gratitude, and after I do my African yoga, after I do my meditation and my sounding, the first thing in my prayer, well, first thing is I wish things for all beings. But the first thing in my personal prayer is to give thanks for everything that I can think of, to give thanks. And then from there, I command what I command. I decree what I decree. And if I'm not feeling confident, I might ask for it. But where we're coming from gratitude and we're coming from service, we can command, because the universe is us. The creator is the I am. And when we can say, I command that I live my best, it's also, when we speak about manifestation, people speak about manifestation. It's a word that I've been using for long over 10, 12 years, and it's now getting cool to say, I manifest.
Right.
But really, manifestation isn't just, God, give me a Benz. It's like, okay, if that Benz is going to take you 1,000 miles so you can drop food to people who need it, that's a good manifestation. But if you're just filling your own cup, and it is necessary to fill your own cup, but if your reason, your grand scheme is just to receive for self, you're going to come across so many hurdles. You're going to maybe get that manifestation, and there's always a cost. Whereas when you're serving, and you come from service and you come from gratitude, the things that come are the things that are truly for you, not for your ego's desire to be fulfilled.
I'm truly gratitude and grateful for you to jump on. But before we end this amazing conversation, how can people find you? And then can you end the show with a dope beatbox?
For sure. So you can find me at marvradio.com. You can find me on Instagram at Marv Radio. That's the only platform I've been using for a while, but you can, from there, I'll direct you to the other ones once I start jumping on them again. And in terms of busting a little beatbox, I want to say that I've got some new music coming out soon. And when you go to marvradio.com, you're going to see the offerings for this Soul Abundance journey, which is all about how you can use vision, sound, and voice to bring in your ideal reality. And it's really time for it. So yeah, check that out, and let's bust a little beatbox. That is not a noun. Marv Radio. That's the end of the show.
And we're out. Peace.
Peace.